So the first thing we are going to be doing is making our repository. The repository is actually useful. For those who don't know, Git is a tool that allows you to make your projects. That those could be simple files that you use for writing things, or applications. And the thing is that you can actually use these repositories as an external drive. It's like, think on it like a Google Drive or OneDrive or something like that, where you push your files in there, and then you can actually edit them, and then you can keep a track on all the changes that happens to that file during the time. So we are going to be creating a repository here called Fire, because that's the name of the app I'm going to be doing. And also keep in mind that you should put a description that it's going to appear in a side of the repository. Let's put Kubernetes. The whole idea of this project is having an operator that is going to be taking care of the firewall rules in our Azure firewall from within Kubernetes. So that's basically what put in here. Then you need to choose if you want everyone to see it or only private, that it's only for you, and anyone that you want to collaborate directly with this repository. I'm going to be putting it public because the complete project is going to be public. You can fork it and do any modifications that you want. Then you can add a README file, a git ignore file. A README is simply a file that it's going to show some details about what this is about. This more than the description. The description is something very short that you should use to only explain in a few words what is the idea. In the README, you ideally put instructions on how to install, how to use it, what are the dependencies, what is the whole idea of the project, the future of the project, how to collaborate, or if you want to sponsor or something like that. All that information goes in the README. Then you have the git ignore. The git ignore is a file that specifies what Git should ignore to push into the repository. It is very normal that there are some files or folders that you don't want to put into your repository. Probably a file with some credentials or configuration folders that are only for your machine. So you are going to put those in the git ignore. I'm going to show you how to do that later. Then you have a license. This is very important. Your project should have a license. It's fine if it doesn't, but if it doesn't, anyone can do whatever they want with it. Even clone it and make a product that it's paid for it. So the idea with this is having a license that allows you to decide what other people can do with your code. I'm going to let this empty because I'm going to add that later and show you how to manage Git. Very simple. This is not a course on how to use Git, but you will take some things from here. So you create the repository. This is very fast. And you will see this because the repository is completely empty, right? So this means nothing is in here. Next, what we are going to be doing is copy this link from here. And then we go to a folder that we have where we want to clone the repository. Clone the repository means make a folder in your machine that it's linked to the folder on the repository, in the remote repository. For that, we're going to have a git, the command line git install. You can run git and hit enter and you will see this message. This means that you have git installed. Or if you're not, you can install it. You can Google git install and you can get how to install it in your system. Then we are going to be doing a git clone. We paste the URL and this is going to create a folder in here called kubefire. So the same name of the repository. If we go here, we will see that we don't have anything in there. So we are going to open our VS Code in this folder. And we are going to see we don't have anything in here. Actually, we do have something in there that it's a file, a folder, a hidden folder called, let me see. Yeah, here. We have a folder that it's hidden that it's .git. And in here we have configuration about our remote repository, but we don't care about that right now. Next, what we are going to be doing is we are going to add a README file in here. So we click here, readme.md for Markdown. We are going to say this is the repository of cube file. Kubernetes. Within Kubernetes cluster. Save. Next thing, we added that file in here, so we can see that the file is in this folder, but if we go to the repository, we still see there is nothing in there. And this is actually fine, because the only place where that file, that readme.md exists, is in your machine. So what you want to do is push that file to the repository, but you cannot simply push the file. You need to pack it in something that it's called a commit. Think of a commit like a folder where you put all the files that you changed and you want to put that in the repository. The repository history is made of commits that are linked one to the next one. So basically it's a list of commits, one going next to the other one. It's not an incremental number, so it's not 1, 2, 3. There is a hash in there, so the number the number of the commit, the identifier of the commit, is a very long string. And what you do is every time that you modify something, you make a commit with the file, you put a message in the commit, and you push that commit to the repository. How we do that? We are gonna see the status of Git, and it's gonna say we are having this file that is on track, so it's not in any place. So you need to make that file added into the commit. So we are gonna add. We can simply put this, and it's gonna add a file. If we have multiple files, we can put minus capital A, and this is gonna be all. So we do the same. It's the same. If we do a status, it's gonna say the file is now being tracked as a new file, and this is gonna be in a commit. So now we put a message in the commit. This is not optional. You need to put a message. If you don't put a message, you cannot push the commit. So adding details about the project. Something important about the commits and the messages on the commit. Ideally, you should not put what are you doing, because that's very obvious. For example, if I put here adding the README file, it's obvious I'm adding that. It's if you see the commit, you'll see that there is a new file. So that doesn't add much information to other people on why you do that. So ideally, the message in the commit should be a why you are doing this. So even adding details about the project is not a good message. Should be something like adding details about the project, so everyone is aware of the scope of it. Okay, so I'm adding this file because I want other people to be aware of what we are going to be doing with it. So that's why I'm adding the README file. Once you do that, if you do a status, you are going to see that the file is gone, and that's because it's ready to be pushed to the repository. So next thing, we do a git push, and it says that it's pushing from my main, which is the name of the branch I'm in here, to the main branch in the repository. In Git, there is this concept of branches. You have the main branch, which is the primary one, where you have all the commits that make your application, being the last one, the current place where you are working, right? So every time that you push something, you go one in the top of it. But if I want to add some new functionality, I should open a separate branch and start working in here, adding files, modifying files, adding functionalities and everything. When I'm ready to put this into main, I do a merge of it using something called pull request, but it doesn't matter. So what I do is, instead of keeping this branch, I merge this branch to the main, and then I follow in the main, integrating all my changes. In that way, anyone else that is working on the main, they don't see what I'm modifying. So I can be breaking the code and no one is going to be affected by that. So that's something very important to know. So now if we go to remote repository and refresh, we are going to see the file here. You see the readme.md. And because of the way GitHub works, when you have a readme in the base folder, all the content is exposed in here. So if I add more things in there, it's going to be added in here in the main page of the repository. And my description is here on the side. So next thing we are going to be doing is adding a license. You can see there are no licenses in here. And if I go to my base thing and I go to repositories, in Kubefile, you will see here, it doesn't say this, right? So we don't have a license. The easiest way to add a license in GitHub at least is going here and click add file, create new file. And if you put here simply the name license, you will see this button appears and says choose a license template. This is very handy. You have the 3 more used ones. You have some others ones. And then you have this link that will help you to decide what's the best one for your project, right? In my case, I'm going to be using GPL version 3. I always use this one. So review and submit. And this is going to do the same. It's going to make a message for a title for my commit and add in a commit. And check here by default says create new branch for this commit. I'm not doing that. I'm going to go directly to the main because I don't want to complicate with branches. So I'm going to commit new file. And you can see now we have this license. So now if I do an ls in here, I don't have my file here. So if I now create a file here, let's say, let's add something in here. This project is under license GPL v3, right? Okay, we do a status. We see the file got changed, so we add the file. We put a comment detailing why what's the license we used. And we will try to do a push. And let's see what happened. Oh, it fails. It got rejected. Why it got rejected? It got rejected because my version of the repository only knows there is a README file in there, and I'm adding more text into that file. But when Git tries to go to the repository and pushes this, sees that the repository has a file that it's not in my local machine. So Git says, I don't want to push this to the repository because it might break something in there. Before doing that, you need to actually do something to make your repository in your machine up to date with the one that it's remote. So for that, we are going to do a pull. That Git pull is going to bring all the changes since the last time I accessed the repository. What that means is that this license file with 674 characters is being downloaded to my machine. And you can see it is in here now. So now, if I do a git status in here, we are going to see there is no other changes, but because of the configuration of my terminal, I see I have 2 things to push, right? Before I only had 1. You see, only 1. This one is the README file update I did. This one in here, the second one, is the addition of the license, which is already in the repository. But remember, my history in my local machine doesn't have that. So my history got updated and I'm pushing those changes to the repository. So if I do a push now, this is going to work. And we see, again, main to main, it's fine. This in here is a shortened version of the ID of the commit, right? So now if we go here and we press F5, we're going to see our text is updated in here, right? And we see also our licensing here. So with this, we already have our repository ready to start working. We can start putting things here. We have a README file so anyone knows how to use it. We have a license so everyone knows what they can and cannot do. And we are going to be adding a folder in there.